My name is Erica Lorraine Spencer, and I remain subject to state surveillance and terrorism by the state of California that is operating a malicious targeting system, which is referred to as federal group stalking and monitoring via communication devices. And it is in violation of federal stalking statute 18 U.S.C. sections 2261A subsections 1 and 2. My website and podcast serve the public good by publishing evidence of the public entity's ceaseless engagement in a pattern of conduct intended to stalk and monitor via communication devices, surveil, harass, and terrorize an American citizen in concert with the people of the state of California. Documentation serves the lawful purposes of wide exposure, federal prosecution, and influencing federal legislation with policies specifically designed to punish, dismantle, and disincentivize an unprecedented targeting system by a public entity that acts in concert with the people of the state in order to criminally place under surveillance and terrorize an American citizen, which is a matter of public corruption in the state of California.
Alrighty, this is documentation for the federal imprisonment of Tracy Banks, who's defaming with Daryl Mandy while the entity is stalking by helicopter. This is the Ontario Police. All right, and so while she's engaged in criminal defamation, she's engaged in harassment, she's engaged in group stalking with the state. They are indeed group stalking together. And remember, the Ontario Police are flying over a senior citizen community. And she's referencing the criminal conduct by the Ontario Police as a basis to criminally defame. She's relying on Daryl Mandy, a third party, as a basis, as a witness for what is the criminal conduct that she's engaging in. In other words, she's holding up her phone while she's monitoring with Daryl Mandy on the phone. This is Title 18 conduct. She's pacing around the apartment while the Ontario Police are flying over the apartment. This is the same Ontario Police Department that flew over me in circles at this same apartment complex, and she includes him while this conversation is ongoing. This is audible activity. Daryl Mandy is the documented third party. That is May 26, 2023. He's group stalking. This is the same demon that engages in kidnapping with that corrupt police department and then referencing that criminal act as a basis of criminal defamation. That is literally the purpose of group stalking by the state. The entity is flying over a senior citizen community with simultaneity to my conversation about that Ontario Police. This is what Jay Burnett, officer badge number 19993, engaged in, referencing what was the conversation inside of her apartment, which is again before this third party called the police, which is a criminal act of summoning that entity that is already stalking with you, and doing so while he pulled out his cell phone on May 4th, 2019 and played back the argument, much like the argument inside of this apartment is also public information, while the entity is engaged in surveillance. The entity engaged in what is, and this is the entity on the phone with Daryl Mandy, a third party, referencing the fact that the entity is going to call the police. That's a threat to engage in criminal summoning with the people of the state who are group stalking with that corrupt police department. Engaging in what is criminal defamation, referencing the kidnapping by the Ontario Police Department as a means of criminally defaming you. This is the malice with which first of all, this is a demon, and understanding that those are word curses, that is literally legally referred to as the criminal defamation, which is facilitating that pattern of conduct. She is referencing and relying on a third party as a witness to, which is nothing other than an admission of engaging in the elements of monitoring. That is Daryl Mandy in the background that's monitoring with the Ontario Police. That is a basis of federal prison. All right, the entity is doing so on an ongoing ceaseless basis and with impunity. The entity is engaging in that pattern of conduct with regard to the body of evidence, the repeated acts of kidnapping, not only with Eric Spencer, with Tommy Banks. She's engaging in what is the pattern of conduct with those third parties who are also documented with that same corrupt entity that's stalking in helicopters right now as I open up the front door. They were doing so, again, as I documented, at 9:19 p.m. This is a police department that's going to be disbanded. They're engaged in state surveillance with terrorists such as Tracy Banks, who is targeting her own daughter, and then relying on what is the criminal conduct of that state in order to falsely depict that targeted individual. This is what is group stalking by the state, relying on the people of the state. So as I'm subject to, again, this is a terrorizing environment while literally the argument that's underway, referencing that corrupt police department. That is not a coincidence while that police department engages in what is the audible activity, relevant positioning, crossing a path. In other words, group stalking by helicopter while you're talking about the group stalkers that are an entirely corrupt police department. That's the pattern of conduct with intent by a demon inside of the apartment that is looking for you to act out. I just want to be clear, the malice with which the entity engages in that. That's why you have that simultaneity of conduct. There is under no circumstances where the ordinary target individual reacting to what is this pattern of conduct ever going to create mental illness on behalf of that targeted individual. It never happens. The entity and through the mouth of Tracy Banks, who is again admitting to what is evidence that has never been a matter of communication between us. She's admitting to thousands of people that are aware of my internet, little old me, where I don't do any advertisements. I'm just a person in Southern California, and I'm publishing videos on the internet. I'm not doing anything that's causing any sort of viral impact, but she is referencing thousands of people that I supposedly called, who are aware of my my website and my podcast. She's referencing people that I quote unquote have called. None of this is actually the case, but however, she represents the people of the state who are making an admission regarding evidence that they should not have any information about. If you are indeed subject to gang stalking, which is merely a figment of your imagination, then there is nothing that you're doing on the internet that's not being monitored that's going to cause any sort of attention from that entity. This is the same third party that's making criminal allegations with regard to the level of malice, falsely depicting herself as being one in any position to represent me in any court, falsely depicting my character. She does so for that ongoing criminal purpose of group stalking. Why is an entity group stalking you? Because they are intending to murder or kidnap you, which is what she has participated with the Ontario Police Department on more than one occasion. All right. So I just want to be clear, while the Ontario Police are flying over the senior citizen complex again, 9:19 p.m. and right now as I'm documenting by podcast, they're doing so while they're engaged in Title 18 federal stalking. She's pacing around in the apartment and she is again making ongoing monitoring activity. She's pacing around. She is monitoring me while at the same time asking me, do I want this? Do I want that? I'm getting ready to leave this demon's house, just like I did under the fake sun at 9 o'clock in the morning. That same fake sun that you see over her while she's walking outside at 2 o'clock in the afternoon. That's not the natural environment. That's the demon that's engaged in criminal defamation. That's the demon that's making threats regarding criminal summoning. That's the demon that's engaging in what is referencing the evidence that's putting her in a federal facility and not the target individual, and referencing anything about their mental illness, while you have objective evidence showing the fact that these are demons who are indeed stalking. They rely on criminal defamation, but as you can see, as the evidence shows, it's unintelligent. It's actually under no circumstances even a basis to diagnose. And the target individual's evidence is speaking to the mental illness of that entity, contrary to what the corrupt government relies on. This is nothing other than abuse of power and falsely depicting, maliciously defaming, even in the face of disregarding that evidence. That's not what the federal government is going to do. And there's no spell work that this witch or the entity that's practicing this witchcraft, which is group stalking, it's demonic activity, that's going to evade that. So this is, again, objective evidence that stands alone. It's objective on its face. And this is podcast regarding the ongoing criminal conduct. This is analogous to the kidnapping that was underway on May 4th, 2019. Jay Burnett, again, badge number 19993, he's going to federal prison. All right, and the Ontario Police Department is going to be disbanded. The Ontario Police are engaged in corporate invasion of privacy. This entire conversation, this entire argument, her telephone conversation with a third party is serving not only the criminal elements of monitoring, but it is public information while criminal monitoring remains underway. And this demon is relying on what is ongoing defamation. We're relying on ongoing, even right now, harassment as a means of maintaining the elements of monitoring. And again, I want to be clear, that's why she is going to federal prison. All right, so you're dealing with what is an entire malicious and fictitious. It's literally a fictitious reality. When you're looking at the light source that's remaining over the apartment building all day long, everything that they're engaging in is serving that criminal system. And the entity is facing those consequences for that. And dragging a third party in, understand that third party is knowingly engaging in the elements of monitoring together. This is a picture of malice. And they do so for that criminal purpose of targeting another, and doing so with regard to the ongoing knowledge that you're documenting it. That's why they're also going to federal prison. All right, it's currently 9:47 p.m. The documentation that's entitled WSA-The People is documenting this on an ongoing basis. The demon in 55 has been engaged in ongoing terrorism all day, as I document on an ongoing basis, hammering the floor. All right, it's sounding as though something reminiscent of hammering the floor. And again, getting louder and louder the more that I document. Demons that are stalking with Tracy, who is a demon, who is monitoring, group stalking her own daughter. That's not a real mother. This is exposing demonic activity, however, while also prosecuting state surveillance. And the entity is, again, engaging in what is monitoring the evidence of that criminal system, which is supported with evidence, contrary to what the people of the state, the entity relies on nothing but essentially gossip and conjecture, which have no evidence other than the lies that they posit, all right, which an entity that's abusing its government, its authority under the law relies on, okay? Those are nothing other than gang stalkers that are lying. So it's currently 9:48 p.m. That helicopter evidence is, again, in the presence of a third party that's pacing in apartment 55, her license 5WB715. The third party inside of this apartment who's group stalking. This third party is gang stalking on a ceaseless basis. License 9HUZ740. That's Tracy Banks. Engaging in criminal defamation. Engaging in what is threats to engage in criminal summoning. Engaging in what is ongoing harassment and terrorism as an entity, while she is hostile to the documentation of her criminal engagement in the P.O.C. And again, she's doing so after having engaging in what is a pattern of kidnapping with that entity, and then referencing that criminal conduct as a basis to defame the targeted individual. That it does not get any more bombastic than that. That's the state that acts with full level of malice and is still obsessively gang stalking, including right now. Okay. Again, Daryl Mandy is in Inglewood. I've documented him already. He's going to federal prison for group stalking with Tracy Banks, facilitating group stalking, and is doing so on an ongoing basis in the engineer light. With knowledge of the documentation, doing so with the Ontario police, sitting on the phone, you're engaging in, you're group stalking with the state, you're going to federal prison for that. All right. It's currently 9:49 p.m. I'm just documenting this unlawful threat to my life and my safety, my mental well-being, while an entity is hostile to your documenting them. All right. And it is in every way exhibiting and demonstrating their mental illness, contrary to the criminal defamation that the entity engages in order to kidnap you, all right, while they're gang stalking you. All right, it's currently 9:50 p.m. and it is Friday, November 8, 2024. The Ontario police are gang stalking in helicopter while they are aware and fully apprised of the public information, the conversation that's occurring inside of this apartment. And it's not based on the volume. It's not based on the entity that's, just a bunch of nosy neighbors. These are demons who are group stalking under the fake sun for the duration of the day. The engineered light, my ceiling on my shadow on the ceiling, the ongoing stalking by helicopters over the top of my head, flying back and forth, pacing all around, following from place to place in Ontario, as I show in the county, following from place to place, city to city, county to county, and state to state, by helicopter as well in that specific environment. This is where an entity is engaging in that P.O.C. and doing so with impunity. The entity, again, units 33 through 64, they are indeed going to federal prison, just like the demons in every other city that I went to, and including the LAPD and the demons of the the Los Angeles Police Department, Alvarado Gardens, they're all going to federal prison, including speaker companies. This is the criminal system that they were engaging in. And the entity is there a reason why you're holding your phone up at me?
Why
is there something?
Going to federal prison?
Is there a reason why you're standing here?
Yeah.
What?
Because you're saying everybody's going to federal prison.
I'm over here talking to myself. Why are you concerned about what I'm leaving? So, what are you doing? Just holding your phone up at me.
Leave it alone, babe.
While Daryl's on the phone.
What you doing?
Yeah, I'm leaving. So why are you obsessively consumed with me standing in my presence?
I'm not obsessed.
Right. So she finds federal prison and standing with Daryl Mandy on the phone that's monitoring together while the Ontario International Airport is flying over. That's what she was doing. She was monitoring right now. It's currently 9:51 p.m. Alan D. WAPNER. This is a corrupt government leader. He's currently on the Ontario City Council, but he's also a demon that's the president over that Ontario International Airport that's engaged in state surveillance, engaging in what is a sex offense, monitoring my genitalia, group stalking with the corrupt police, group stalking with the people of the state such as Tracy, who is simultaneously standing in the path, that's group stalking with a communication device, a method of activity creation, which Daryl Mandy is intentionally and knowingly engaging in, and doing so while the Ontario International Airport is flying over the senior citizen complex, the same place where they're stalking, group stalking in helicopters, which the people of the state that are gang stalking with them in the specific environment are not complaining about, all right, because they're fully engaged in that pattern of conduct together. This is the entity that's engaging in criminal defamation while she's group stalking. You're going to federal prison. This is the entity that's engaging in what is the threat of criminal summoning while you're group stalking. You're going to federal prison. But specifically, Tracy Banks, you're talking about what is mental illness. This is someone that's been engaged in group stalking conduct, targeting, monitoring somebody's genitalia, a career sex offender, highly malicious, maniacal in the conduct, not intelligent, okay, but just relying on witchcraft, relying on the demonic. In other words, this is exposing evil, and it's also prosecuting because she is stalking with the police, and that's the state. All right, so she's going to federal prison for that. The people of the state are going to federal prison. This particular demon, the pattern of conduct, the repeated desperate acts of kidnapping, and then referring to your criminal activity as supposed to be some basis for your criminal defamation of that target individual. That sort of psychosis, which the state relies on, is the framework for placing such terrorists like Tracy Banks, sex offenders like Tracy Banks, in mental facilities, okay, where for the rest of your life, okay? You're talking about you're trying to murder me, that's not working, and then to date, because you haven't been raided yet by the federal government, you're laughing about it. This is a psychopath who was a threat to herself and the public, and she is including the people of the state who are on her phone group stalking with her. The demon in 55, group stalking with her. The demons at units 33 through 64, group stalking with her, and they're all going to federal prison. It's currently 9:53 p.m. on Friday, November 8, 2024. This is P.O.C. as I'm departing from the third-party facilitating venue, Woodside Senior Apartments, where the entity is subject to federal prison for that, as I go to yet another venue, and I'm showing that ongoing pattern of conduct that remains underway. All right, the entity, again, the demons apart the back portion of the complex, units 55 through 64, group stalking on the opposite side, where you're hearing amplified noise coming through the ceiling and coming through the walls. Those demons are a part of the same building structure, 33 through 64. They're all going to federal prison. This is the entity that's surrounding, while the police and the airport are means of amplified audible activity, while the entity is together corporately engaging in criminal defamation. These are violent sex offenders who have been monitoring my genitalia day and night, monitoring every move that I make, and they do so with impunity. That's the substance of what I've been documenting in writing. And they're also engaged in federal stalking, which is an independent basis, by the way, of federal prison. Tracy Banks and Daryl Mandy are engaged in federal stalking under Title 18 based on the group stalking system, while she uses her phone to engage in the criminal elements of monitoring, while the Ontario police are group stalking federal prison. Okay, the entity is hammering on the walls and on the ceiling while the demons are monitoring this evidence. That's, again, federal stalking and also impunity while you're engaged in state surveillance. The Senior Citizen Complex is a group stalker. The AVANATH Capital Management LLC, the employees working at Woodside, the entity that's living in units 33 through 64, they're all going to federal prison. Just want to point that out. It's 9:55 p.m. This is P.O.C. Union Pacific Railroad, amplified audible activity. I'm in the living room at Woodside Senior Apartments. That's entirely impossible to hear. That's as demonic as the fake sun. It's as demonic as the vibration of the apartment where the police fly over. It's as demonic as the engineer light creating my shadow on the ceiling above my head, and the engineer light that's moving across this demon Tracy Banks's bedroom wall. It's as demonic as the ongoing earthquakes while the demon in 55 walks back and forth above me. That's audible activity that's amplified in nature for purposes of massive monitoring that the police, that Tracy Banks, that Daryl Mandy, that the demon in 55, the demons in units 33 through 64, who are all going to federal prison, but the entire entity, the neighborhood, the city of Ontario, is a group stalker. All right, it's currently 9:57 p.m. and the entity is doing so while monitoring. This is, again, what the criminal conduct that Tracy Banks is engaged in, while out of her face, the demon is also engaging in what is defaming, federal prison, while at the same time you're group stalking and you're engaged in what is threatening to engage in criminal summoning. When the demons are already stalking in a helicopter, they're literally listening, and then you're engaging in what, I'm going to call that psychotic level of malice, you're going to federal prison. Okay, this is what Lexi did under the fake sun at the Holiday Inn in Victorville, California. Okay, while they're stalking in helicopters, and you're referencing that agency, calling the police when you are, in fact, the target individual, are not breaking any laws. All right, you're going to federal prison for that. That's what Tracy Banks is engaging in. All right, it is currently 9:58 p.m. This is P.O.C. at Woodside Senior Apartments, where the entity is engaged in Title 18 federal stalking, engaging in what is ongoing impunity that's being exhibited while they are acting in defiance toward the federal judge. They're acting in defiance toward the federal court. They're acting in defiance toward the federal investigator, the federal prosecutor that is exposing them, blowing the whistle on them, and they are going to federal prison based on the charges and the rules that they continuously violate in the ways in which they violate them. Okay, it's currently 9:58 p.m. This is P.O.C. All right, 55, monitoring my movements as I'm packing to leave, which is exactly what was ongoing all day long as I document minute by minute, second by second, ongoing amplification of this demon pacing above. This is the Ontario Police Department. This is the City of Ontario, the the municipality itself. This is the state that's gang stalking through a demon that's living at Woodside Senior Apartments, a third party. This is government conduct that's occurring vicariously, and that is the state is monitoring even as I am packing up to depart from this third party facilitating venue where the state continuously is group stalking, and that is putting everybody that I documented before and everybody that I'll document after this engaging in the same series of violations of federal policies that will put you in federal prison. That's why they are going exactly where I've stated that they're going, as they violate those federal laws and that exist, and that those that shall be enforced based on exposing what the state of California is doing, which is group stalking an American citizen, and doing so for the criminal purpose. Not just the fact that they're doing it, but the state is also group stalking because the state sought to murder and kidnap me. All right, you're going to federal prison for that as well. 10:03 p.m. This demon is pacing. This is the state that's monitoring while this demon, Tracy Banks, is engaging in what is harassment and terrorism because she is hostile to being exposed for being a group stalker. That's like a sex offender that's mad because you're enforcing your rights against being subject to their sexual violence. This is a psychopath who is still group stalking while I pack up and leave. Okay, it's 10:04 p.m. All right, the demon in 55 is pacing above as I start recording right now. That's a demon stalking with activity. But you hear in the background right here? This is Woodside Senior Apartments that's engaged in group stalking and monitoring using the sprinkler system as a method of stalking with activity creation. And so is the train. But remember, these are both methods, and the entity is also monitoring, providing this evidence while you're documenting it. This is the mental illness by psychopaths that are demon possessed. Tracy Banks is engaged in bathroom monitoring. That's what's ongoing. And while I'm nude, while my genitalia is exposed, she's stalking in the path with this same city that's pacing above me, monitoring my genitalia, sounding the train activity, monitoring my genitalia. That represents the population. The entire Woodside Senior Apartments complex using the sprinkler system, monitoring my genitalia is indicative of that entity that is indeed a sex offender, monitoring and responding to the ongoing real-time documentation of its criminal conduct, because you cannot hear the Ontario Railroad train tracks through all of the houses throughout the city of Ontario like I'm hearing it inside of Tracy's apartment, while she is and the rest of the state is monitoring my genitalia. Sex offenders engaged in bathroom monitoring. And the demon with license 5WUB 715. Okay, she's a heavy-set Caucasian female, bleach blonde with no neck. She's gang stalking under the fake sun. She's walking in the middle of engineered light on the sidewalk outside of this apartment, and she is monitoring my genitalia right now while the entity uses train activity to monitor me while I'm capturing the audible activity of Woodside Senior Apartments group stalking. This is AVANATH Capital Management group stalking using the sprinkler system as a means of stalking with activity creation, and they're all engaged in monitoring my genitalia right now. This is P.O.C. All right, and it's currently 10:11 p.m. You'll see images of relevant positioning in the kitchen as soon as I walk out. That's when the sprinklers start. As I start documenting, this is when the pounding, the hammering on the floor above me starts. This is when the train starts as I document. This is the entity that's monitoring evidence that is engaged in group stalking, engaged in what is threatening your life, threatening your liberty, engaged in criminal defamation. They're all going to federal prison for that. And AVANATH employees as well are going to federal prison. And AVANATH is also going to be civilly responsible for the ongoing harms that it is inflicting while gang stalking, group stalking with the state. This is a company that's acting toward the demise of an American citizen, trying to murder and kidnap them while profiting while group stalking, and that's what AVANATH is going to be responsible for. The sprinkler system as a means of stalking with activity creation is imputing that criminal system to AVANATH. It's occurring in the engineered light where the fake sun is rising and setting. AVANATH is indeed group stalking with the state. It is currently 10:12 p.m. This is P.O.C. for bathroom monitoring. Alrighty, it's 10:36 p.m. This is impossible light activity. Bye. I'm out your apartment now. You can close the door.
Well, you're talking loud.
I'm not talking to you.
Okay, go.
Okay, bye.
Go away.
Okay, I'm going.
Go.
Bye.
Bye. Go. Bye.
Bye. Okay, bye. That's Satan that's monitoring. That's the demon in apartment 51. Okay, that's Tracy Banks, who you've seen under the fake sun. You've seen her group stalking. There's also a record of her repeatedly kidnapping with the demons, who are the Ontario police, stalking in helicopter over this apartment complex. The demon in 55 is maintaining amplified audible activity. This is ongoing monitoring by the entity that is doing so through the entire state. The city of Ontario is group stalking. They're engaged in heavy duty group stalking, and they just engaged in what is an iteration of the pattern of conduct in the midst of an argument. All of that's audible activity while referencing the demons, who are the Ontario police, who fly over in real time in helicopter. That's not a coincidence in the specific environment, and it's also not a coincidence when they're engaged in corporate invasion of privacy. As you mentioned the demons, so the demon arrives. They do so, as you've seen, day in and day out in helicopter over my head, including from different venues, not just at Woodside. Okay, everybody at Woodside is going to federal prison for it, though. It's currently 10:37 p.m. The people of the state in unit, this looks like 42, 43, 43. 46, 47, 47, crossing path while the entity sounds something reminiscent of gunshots. They're crossing path in engineer light. All right, they do so while the entity is sounding what is amplified audible activity. All right, this is P.O.C.
Why are you still standing out here? Go to your car.
Anything else?
Go to your car.
That's Daryl on the phone, right?
Why do you care?
Daryl, that's whose voice I heard? Okay, that's P.O.C. Just want to document that. The people of the state that are going to federal prison, units 33 through 64, they are indeed monitoring the fake moon as I captured it outside of her patio window. That's the same exact position of the fake sun at 3 o'clock in the afternoon. And remember, I'm capturing the sunrise at the same apartment complex. The entity is engaged in group stalking, and the heavy set Latino, this is a male and a female, you'll see them crossing path at approximately 10:38 p.m. That's the entity that's engaging and maintaining the elements of monitoring. At the same time, the demons are monitoring two amplified audible activities. So Tracy, breaking down what they're doing, Tracy's literally in her apartment, group stalking on the inside of her apartment, while demons, more than one body, that's demonic pacing in engineered light, while the entity sounds a method of amplification as opposed to the train or as opposed to commercial planes that have no business with regard to the operation of the Ontario International Airport hovering over, even flying in this direction, over the Woodside Senior Apartments. They do so while they're group stalking. And that's, again, the demise of Alan D. Wapner and every other demon that's currently affiliated with the Ontario International Airport that is demonstrating the needfulness to remove that airport. It's not imperative for the state of California, especially while it's engaged in 24-hour surveillance as opposed to legitimate business. All right. The Ontario International Airport and everybody, including Alan D. Wapner, are sex offenders, and they're engaged in gang stalking with the entity that is at a senior citizen complex. And while the entity sounds something reminiscent of gunshots, like boom, 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 loud amplified, something reminiscent of like firecrackers or reminiscent of gunshots. This is where the heavy set Latinos coming from apartment 47 or 48. They are nonetheless the entity in that entire building. They're all going to federal prison, and the entity inside of units 40, I believe it's 48 through 64, they're all going to federal prison as well based on relevant positioning. And as they walk outside and engineer light amongst amplified audible activity, that is their intentional engagement in that criminal conduct, which they're doing 24 hours a day. They're all aware of every moment when my genitalia is exposed, when I'm in the bathroom, when I'm engaged in personal conduct, personal private activity. They're all monitoring in the same way. All right. And so is an entire airport. And so is an entire police department. And so is every commercial actor, everybody living all along in relevant position at 717 North Vine Avenue. They know what I'm doing in the bathroom as I'm doing it, while demons like the one in apartment 55 are engaged in amplified audible activity, taking interest in what's going on with my genitalia when my legs are spread open on a toilet and a bunch of demons are monitoring you. That's sexual violence, and it's actually perverted. Those are demons that are indeed group stalking, and they like to group stalk you with regard to what's going on with your genitalia inside of a private space. That is what is in operation controlling the Ontario International Airport. That's group stalking in California. All right, group stalking in Ontario. So that's what I'm exposing. And as I walk out, the entity is group stalking by walking outside in the parking lot and doing so in engineer light. Remember, they have 6 shadows while they walk by me. That's not the product of the light fixtures on the apartment buildings. That's called crossing a path in engineer light. And they're doing the same thing with the same light activity under a fake sun that's rising and setting over Woodside Senior Apartments. And while the entity keeps that fake sun, there is not possibly any sun, a natural environment, that's going to include the sun being over the Palmdale Road, Victorville, California, Holiday Inn, contrary to what I documented when I was at that Holiday Inn. That's why everybody inside units 33 through 64 who engaged in ongoing aggressive group stalking, including while they like to group stalk and monitor in a sexually perverted and predatory manner, such as inside of the bathroom, were the same sex offender inside of apartment 55 who is acting on behalf of the whole state, that uses helicopters, that uses planes, that uses, again, blood relatives such as Tracy Banks. This is a mentally ill career sex offender who's been engaged in group stalking and resorts to criminal defamation when she cannot stand facts that are she's being confronted with. She resorts to what is entirely unpersuasive and unintelligent methods of just pure defamation. That's a witch, by the way, that's just speaking word curses. It means nothing with regard to the reality of the mind state of the target individual who is documenting demons who are stalking you. It is the system of group stalking. It's demonic activity. This is what the police department that shall be no more is practicing because they are engaged in demonic activity. They're sex offenders stalking, engaging in what is terrorism using helicopters. You're stalking. Because you are devoted to using and abusing and wasting resources in those criminal manners, you will not exist altogether as a police department. And that's what Mike Lorenz and Derek Williams before him have demonstrated as an entire department has committed their resources and expenditures, tremendous expenditures, using the helicopters, which the mayor, Paul Leon, a demon, a sex offender, a group stalker, knows all about. Group stalking with the men of the Union Pacific train, license plate 6BCK410. That's a sex offender group stalking, and they do the same thing under the fake sun, where I'm on Vine Avenue, and you've seen these demons cross path, including with the Ontario police, while the fake sun is over this street at 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock in the 6 o'clock in the evening, and it's also over me by the demons who are going to federal prison, the Ontario police, who are on video. It's published on the internet right now at 9 and 10 o'clock in the morning. That's never the sun. Those are the same demons stalking in helicopter, while you hear the heightened volume of what is the Union Pacific train, which is never going to be heard at this location. It's also heard inside of the apartment that Tracy Banks lives in. And Tracy Banks and Daryl Mandy, understand that that's federal prison, okay? They're group stalking with the police. You are group stalking while you are engaged in any elements of monitoring. That includes while that demon sits on the phone and engages in a method of light activity using the phone and audible activity while this demon, this sex offender, this psychopath who is going to be restrained in a padded room. That's Tracy Banks. This demon is going to be locked in a federal facility for the rest of her life for the ongoing malice that I documented yet again today while she's engaged in this criminal system that this demon in 55 is engaging in, these demons of the Ontario Police Department are engaged in, that these demons in the city of Ontario are engaged in, while a train is literally a demonic means of a whole city to group stalk you, because you cannot hear the Union Pacific Railroad train on Vine Avenue. You can't hear it inside of the apartments. It's not something that's going to disrupt you. You're not going to be able to hear it in the car like I documented before 2024, where the entity is using train activity to compete with what you're stating while you're inside of a vehicle. You can't even hear the traffic that's right next to you, let alone the train that's at a great distance. This is the entity that is engaged in unintelligent methods of openly demonic conduct, which is relevant to psychological torture. Okay. And as I'm outside, just like I documented before, I documented years ago the fact that Tracy Banks is indeed going to be subject to what is serious time in federal prison while she is gang stalking, and doing so with regard to the engagement in what is not only the entity that's engaged in group stalking, is doing so with regard to the elements of monitoring, but she's doing so while she's monitoring the evidence. It's very, very sick what she's doing, what the entity is doing as an entity. So that's what I'm exposing right now. And as I walk outside, the entity is relying on the train activity as the core means of audible activity right now. And every demon, every single last one of them, at 325 West G Street, at 630 North Fern Avenue, at 717 North Vine, at 713 North Vine, at 714 North Vine, everybody up and down, this entire neighborhood is group stalking. This entire neighborhood is going to be prosecuted for what I've been documenting on an ongoing basis. I've been prosecuting the state while I was in the state of Nevada. Okay, so everybody that I stated, everybody that engaged in offenses that is worthy of federal prison, that's exactly where every single last one of them are going. And it includes the entity that group stalks in commercial airline planes. The entity is going to be producing who was flying what and when, and it's going to be and supplemental to the evidence that I singularly maintained. This is why the entity is going to federal prison. Union Pacific is a documented group stalker, a terrorist. I'm going to drain the pockets of that company. All right, that's including what is interstate commerce as well. Your group stalking uses the train tracks in the city of Ontario, even though you can't even naturally hear it, because the entity uses that method of amplification, because the entity is also using train tracks as a method of light activity, criminal facilitation on the roads and the highways with the demons who are gang stalking you in traffic, while the entity is maintaining aerial surveillance everywhere that you're going. As I've shown you, a fake moon and fake sun remains over me, which is showing how a population of demons is gang stalking. Union Pacific is going to be prosecuted, and I'm going to drain the pockets of that corrupt entity. While you hear the impossible maintenance of train activity, this is going to be in federal court. It's not a matter of scientific mystery with regard to the ability to hear the train in the apartment and to hear the train. If the train is so loud, you're talking about Metrolink that's been on the train. I've been on the trains. I've rode the trains from Upland to LA when I was being gang stalked as a practicing attorney before I was aware of it. You're not on the train and your ears are bleeding because the train is so loud that everybody in the city is going to hear the trains in their homes, disrupting them and creating that substantial disruption. This is entirely illogical and it's openly demonic. The entity that's engaged in this obsessive system, which is defying common sense and science and the operation of how a train works, if it's that loud, then that means it's disrupting everybody in their cars in traffic. That's literally an inherent a danger. This is posed while you can't drive. It's interfering with your ability to drive if you're being disrupted to that level, to that degree with regard to train activity. That's absurdly idiotic. Okay, this is what the entity is doing with the fake sun, with the engineered light, and with the conduct regarding criminal defamation. It requires a corrupt court. It requires demons who are calling themselves doctors and physicians, by the way, many of whom have never met you. But while the entity is entertaining these criminal acts inside of the corrupt courts, inside of the facilitating venue that is the state, that's everybody that's placed themselves in federal prison, because that's where they're all going. These are the demons that engage in criminal defamation. Group stalking, third party, impossible light before this demon crosses path. License, I can't really see that license plate, but I'm gonna document these third parties over here because they're monitoring while impossible light moves across the houses of 713 North Vine Avenue. They're all group stalking as well. 7CQD 844 5T. I'll get that one in a second. Hold on. 97435C1. And these are the demons that were group stalking on an ongoing basis with Ontario Police. 9PNL 692 is crossing path, and they're monitoring with that demon that engages in an act of terrorism via directed light while they're driving by. Your headlights is not going to move all across the house beside that vehicle while they're driving north and south on Vine Avenue. That's a demon that's stalking you. 5TNM 830, and they engage in terrorism with engineered light on an ongoing basis. This is exactly what I've been documenting inside of Tracy Banks's apartment, where sunlight is not going to be aimed on the ceiling, behind and on the ceiling, and on the floor, while she's got a covered patio, and it's appearing on her ceiling inside of her bedroom. All manner of what is a demonic means of stalking with light, a demonic means of stalking with noise. As you heard, the Union Pacific Railroad, it's an admission that they're stalking, and you're going to use their demonic behaviors, their demonic pattern of conduct, to prosecute every single last one of them, acting commercially, acting with regard to the abuse of government, the government body. It's pointing the finger at those that are in positions of authority and leadership who are going to be removed, because while it's happening on your watch, I don't have to get you on video crossing path with me, demon Paul Leon. I'm going to get the group stalking occurring in the city, and it's happening on your watch, and you have met the last days of your position as mayor. All right, the entity is engaging in an ongoing sex offense that Paul Leon knows all about. He's a part of it as well. That's why it's happening in his city. He knows exactly what the demons of the corrupt police department, the demons in corrupt sheriff's department, the demons of the corrupt fire department. He knows what the demons driving around stalking in ambulances. He knows what the entire population is engaged in the city where he's the mayor over. And the Paul Leon is going to be removed by virtue of more than dereliction of duty. This is a demon that's criminally facilitating federal group stalking and monitoring. You will be removed by this criminal system occurring in the city where you are in a position of leadership. All right, it's currently 10:50 p.m. Woodside Senior Apartments is an unfortunate example regarding the senior citizen community, many of whom are going to federal prison. All right, and you're going to put their social securities, their government, their government entitlements, their benefits, right back into the state treasury, because they're going to federal prison. It's currently 10:51 p.m. This is P.O.C. at Woodside Senior Apartments. Federal group stalking and monitoring the entire time, and doing so with impunity. All right, as I document terrorism via directed light, the ordinary target individual, their life is threatened, and they reasonably feel threatened while you're looking at this circus environment, stalking in helicopters and airplanes in a manner which is clearly, the normal person will be like, what the heck is the plane doing flying over the senior citizen complex, let alone at 2 o'clock in the morning. It's interrupting my sleep. And you're hovering over the roof, and you're doing so with regard to every move that every time I move around, there's a plane stalking with activity using planes. This is terrorism. No, you are not remaining as a demon sitting over a corrupt airport while gang stalking is occurring in the city where you're the city councilman, and I'm referencing the demon Alan D. Wapner, while you are in a position in the operations of that corrupt airport is a means of group stalking. You have met your demise as a president over that corrupt airport and everybody under your leadership. And you're talking about what is removing that airport from existence, since the Ontario International Airport has demonstrated the fact that it's not needed because they're devoted to criminal conduct. That's what they're demonstrating. All right, 8AUJ 236, group stalking with this demon that's crossing path, monitoring me inside of this car, speaking to an ongoing obsession by these demons that live in these houses all around Woodside Senior Apartments. This is the same entity that engaged in defacing my vehicle in 2019. The same street where the entity was keeping the fake sun day and night over Vine Avenue, where this same entity engaged in a kidnapping with Jay Burnett of the Ontario Police Department while they were gang stalking me, flying over my car, as opposed to Tracy Banks's apartment, repeatedly group stalking me where I remained there. Doing so on an ongoing basis. This is already published in 2019. This is the pattern of conduct. And all these demons on Vine Avenue, they corporately engaged in the theft of property. They corporately engaged in defacing personal property of the targeted individual that they're gang stalking. And they're gang stalking in 2024. And they gang stalk you with impunity. That is, they communicate an impermissible threat. And they are essentially telling the federal judge, the federal court, that they disregard, they defy federal laws and the fact that you are prosecuting the state as though the state, an inferior position that they hold under the federal government, that they are going to defy enforcement of the rights of that target individual. This is the illusion of these demons who are group stalking in California. By virtue of supremacy, the federal government who will be prosecuting the state, the ongoing documentation revealing impunity by that state by virtue of a demon hammering over the top of my head because I'm documenting that psychopath, sex offending group stalker is monitoring my genitalia and is mad because I'm reporting it. That's a serious federal offense. It's not just a loud demon. And you're going to federal prison for that. They're accomplishing monitoring, which is criminal surveillance by the demons that are waiting to kidnap you and wanting to state that they had probable cause to do so, calling it a lawful arrest. Okay, that's how serious it is. And the entity engaged in the documentation shows they do so on an ongoing, ceaseless basis with impunity, outright disregard for the constitutional rights of another. That is shared by the police, that's shared by the mayor, that's shared by the entire Ontario City Council, that's shared by the demons that are calling themselves an airport. Every single last airline you're talking about with regard to the population, the operation of businesses in the state, and the government itself. While one demon living above Tracy Banks, a third-party group stalker, where state surveillance is underway, they're concentrated the P.O.C. at Woodside. How do you know that? Because the fake sun is rising and setting as a matter of record, not just some statement unsupported by evidence that the government is hoping that that's the case so that they can defame you. But that's not the case here. And so I'm dealing with and I'm documenting a delusional psychopath, Tracy Banks, who is so beside herself with regard to an inability to face what are facts that she cannot contend with, while she makes a series of admissions regarding looking at the evidence. And this demon is group stalking with these third parties. Right, I'm gonna get their license plates. License, that's a paper plate 9LKJ986. And license CF2Y9Z, I believe that's a paper plate. And the people of the state are gang stalking, living on Vine Avenue. They're all group stalking while they're pacing via traffic. These are demons who are still obsessively stalking. They engaged in repeated acts of kidnapping. They engaged in defacing personal property. They engaged in damaging personal property, and they're group stalking ongoing. 9FVW395, I believe. That's a Honda Civic, and the entity is pacing above in the sky space, just like you see where they concentrate that over Woodside Senior Apartments. They're doing that over Vine Avenue right now, flying at a higher elevation. Where the Ontario International Airport, there is no making that normal, especially in the specific environment. But even as you just dissect what the airport is doing as a matter of operations, I guarantee you're talking about what is on its face, recognizing targeting. There is no taking off from the terminals where you are in a position to be flying west over Woodside Senior Apartments, hovering over the roof. You are already at an elevation if you are flying over Woodside Senior Apartments, which is necessarily deviating from flying west out from the airport. So even if you are, you're not at the elevation that I'm capturing. And the entity is targeting in every regard. And you also know that on its face. because these are demons that are stalking. Everything happening in the specific environment is to criminally monitor somebody. And this is breaking apart the demons and their cartoon environment where they're maintaining masquerading as normal everyday society. And all they're doing is stalking somebody and monitoring that person's genitalia as well. This is sexual violence by the airport. This is sexual violence by the police and the sheriff's department. This is sexual violence by the government body in Ontario. The Ontario City Council are a bunch of sex offenders, esteeming themselves as something that they are actually not. Because while you're group stalking, you are not an official authoritative figure sitting on a government body. And no one's going to mistake you for that, and you shall not be referred in that manner. Period. This is stripping what is public corruption down to exactly what it is. You're gang stalking. You don't get to have it both ways. This is how public corruption works. The entity wants to masquerade as having authority and being one thing when actually you're far from that. You're a bunch of demons in a witch coven group stalking in the state of California and in the city of Ontario. And in order to purify, to cleanse, to rehabilitate this community, you have demons that are going to be plucked out of all the positions that they currently hold. All right. And many of them are those that I just mentioned. The demons calling themselves the city council. Those demons are defaming me, because what you hear coming out of Tracy Banks' mouth, that's coming out of the state's mouth. That's an unintelligent co-conspirator, bringing everybody with her. Okay. Engaging in what is criminal conduct that she cannot even comprehend the ways in which she and all the rest of the entity is going to answer under federal law for it. These are the repercussions for group stalking with the government. For the government to be group stalking with the people. All right. The entity is doing so with ongoing impunity. It's currently 10:58 p.m. And so I've already published evidence that's on the internet right now. And so with regard to this aspect of the evidence, I'm going to include this. I'm going to add this on to the podcast that's already published. I published that with regard to real-time knowledge. Remember, it's a threat to your life while an entity is group stalking you. And I'm going to document this right now. This is a molestation by the demons living at Woodside. This is the demon that's exiting because they're group stalking. And so this demon, that is, again, the one, I believe that's a sex offender with minor children driving the BMW, unless this is somebody else. They are a sex offender, but let me get the correct license plate. Yeah, this is a different one. This sex offender wants to molest my body. License 5XXM838. Group stalking by driving out and in engineered light. That's not headlights that's touching you. That's directed light. And a sex offender wants to molest your person while they're stalking you. And that's the same sexual violence while they want to monitor my genitalia. All right. That sex offender is group stalking at 10:58, driving out of Woodside Senior Apartments and aiming engineer light on me in doing so, while the demons are pacing above the Vine Avenue and G Street intersection in Plains. Okay, it is currently 10:59 p.m. and like I stated, real-time evidence is necessary with regard to the threat to your life. And so the demons that are obsessively stalking me 24/7, you're so obsessively stalking while I go from room to room in the apartment. They're obsessively stalking while I go from place to place, which again, the evidence already shows, but this is speaking to the real-time threat posed to your life. The people of the state are going to compensate you for that. Okay, the commercial actors, those that are making money like Amazon Prime, like 7-Eleven, okay, like all the commercial actors in the shopping plaza. There are people like AVANATH Capital Management. They're profiting while they are gang stalking you. You're going to drain all of that. And then on top of that, you're facing damages that are designed to punish you. They're designed to create a horrible reputation for your company that's engaged in terrorism in the United States. It's designed to do that. Okay. It is the entity that's going to be civilly prosecuted. That's the people of the state and the government itself. All right. Inherent to a government engaging in what is this level of violation of your civil liberties, a violation of your constitutional and your human rights. Like as a human being, you have a right for the government to not stalk, not just your life. Remember, they're not just gang stalking me when I go out in public. They're gang stalking every aspect of your life. Who you're dating, if you're dating anybody, what you're talking about on the phone, who you're texting, who it is, where it is that you want it, the next job you want to apply to, what it is that you're viewing on YouTube, what it is that you like, who you subscribe to, what it is that your interest, that the demons are obsessed with everything about you. Remember, this is Satan that's using people, that's using a government, that's studying you, that's obsessed with you. They're also obsessed because of their demons, that they're demon possessed. The demon possessed are engaged in what is sexually perverted conduct. It would be prosecuted under natural law as perverted. The demons that are group stalking you, these are the demon possessed, they are inherently engaged in perverted conduct, perverted behavior. And they are misconstruing and being deceived by Satan and thinking that their sexual perverted conduct, their predatory sexual violence is somehow twisting into some sort of spiritual power while they're gang stalking you as a bunch of demons. This is how twisted and deceived they are. They're going to be prosecuted as the violent sex offenders that they are. They're obsessed with my genitalia. They're gang stalking in bathroom. Who has ever heard of that? Somebody stalking you in the bathroom? That's exactly what the state of California is doing. That's what group stalking is. There is never a point where you are not subject to it. And they're not only group stalking you physically, stalking you, keeping you under surveillance, remaining where you are, stalking you, following you from place to place as a population, corporately, gang stalking, group stalking. They are keeping you under surveillance on the internet via communication devices, on your communication devices. That ongoing criminal conduct by a sex offender that's going to be identified by company name, by your name, whatever your name is, including any commercial means, including any government department, the city of Ontario, the state of California, sex offender. And it's going to be recognized and appreciated under federal law. Why? Because that's literally what the demon possessed are doing. So you're going to prosecute based on following the facts. The facts are the state of California is practicing a satanic targeting system. It's literally demonic activity. All right. And while they do so, it is providing what is a necessary means of recovery to an American citizen who has a right to not have their genitalia and what's going on with your genitalia, a matter of public information amongst a witch coven that's obsessed with you. All right. It is currently, by the way, 11:02 p.m. Tracy Banks is the same sex offender, the same psychopath that engages in ongoing criminal defamation. Again, this is an unintelligent method of a demon. This is a psychopath that's practicing witchcraft, lying, word curses is what this is. It's audible activity. It's criminal also. It's audible activity. It's achieving monitoring. They're doing it with the state that engages in that conduct knowingly and is also designed to psychologically torture. It's designed to obstruct justice. It's designed to frustrate you, bother you. It's supposed to, amongst these demons that lie to each other, that's supposed to be the basis. Oh yeah, all the demons together, they state together that they're crazy, that you're crazy, and so that makes you crazy. That's how it works in the demons who are operating in the courts, however. But that's not the law. That's not the operation of law. That's not the proper analysis either, where the stalker is actually exhibiting mental illness. All right. 11:03 p.m. The Ontario International Airport is hovering over Woodside Senior Apartments, and now I'm on Vine Avenue. So you have them flying at higher elevations, just pacing in the sky space and hovering in real time at 11:03. This is not rising in elevation. They're maintaining steady elevation, hovering at low elevation, directly over the trees, directly over Woodside, directly over Vine Avenue, where I am right now sitting in my car. All right. You have all the airlines at the Ontario International Airport that are engaged in delivery of parcels such as Amazon, UPS, and FedEx, and you have them maintaining airlines to San Francisco, for example. Southwest Airlines, they're maintaining international flights such as Alaska Airlines. The entity is hovering over the senior citizen complex at 11:04 p.m. And that is the audible activity that's amplified inside of the apartment. But yet while I'm sitting in the car, you cannot hear that. You're not naturally going to hear it. The demons are pacing all around while they are listening to me. 9NQM 903, I believe. They're pacing all around, and the demons who are, again, anticipating a federal prosecution, they're listening to what's coming for them, but they've been doing this for years. And the mental illness of the demon possessed operates in the following manner. They continue, the demon possessed, Satan himself. This is the public safety concern because you have a population of people who are demon possessed, and this is a real-time threat. Their mental illness operates with regard to the poor decisions that they make, to the personality defects that they experience with regard to how they treat other people, how they regard the rights of other people, and their reaction to what is their wrongdoing to other people. And so a sex offender engages in more sexual violence. A terrorist engages in more criminal and terroristic behavior, such as stalking in commercial planes. And by the way, while the entity does so, this is literally the evidence that is going to totally remove the Ontario International Airport. And the Ontario International Airport, we're in a federal court, would like to contend, no, please don't remove the Ontario International Airport. We had some wrongdoers, some bad characters, but we can redeem. No, the Ontario International Airport is demonstrating the fact, and it is necessary as a federal response to wipe it from existence altogether based on the intolerable terrorism by America in America against American citizens. That is what the Ontario International Airport, the demons that are in position of authority, the demons that are working at the Ontario International Airport, the demons that are flying these planes from the Ontario International Airport, they're doing so and they're communicating that is the desire. Not that you're going to prosecute based on what the demons want, but based on what they do and the foolishness regarding the impunity with which they do it, which demons are confusing with boldness. Like the demon possessed have been fully exposed, and they're going to suffer prosecution in reality and under natural laws and laws that are going to be prosecuted. The demon possessed, however, that typically rely on witchcraft, they rely on demonic spirits to get them some sort of power to avoid being caught and creating. None of that's working. None of that is going to work at all. And that sort of mindset that's mentally ill, that still is not operating at a level of, okay, the illusion is not working and there are laws that are being violated and it's not a secret anymore. And nobody's thinking that they're looking at the color blue when they're actually looking at the color hot pink. And they all know that they're looking at hot pink. And so you are going to suffer the consequences because it's a very serious federal offense committed by the state and the people in that state, while you are creating what is essentially the color pink when everything's supposed to be blue. That's a big problem. And no one's going to be confused about the fact that it's hot pink when it's supposed to be blue. And because that's the fact, that is the fact that is the state of things as they are. There's some serious consequences, and it includes up to and removing you, whatever you are, a company, whatever you are within the population, you'll be concealed, you'll be taken off and put away in a high security federal facility, period. Like any other terrorist. Okay, these demons that rely on witchcraft and voodoo and all of this voodoo hoodoo nonsense, it's not working. And you're going to serve consequences in the natural that Satan cannot get you out of. He's not getting you out of it. And everyone sees the evidence for exactly what it is. And while you defy common sense and continuously engage in what is contrary and outside of your own interests and the interests of all of your co-conspirators, you're going to serve the consequences for that. All right. It's currently 11:08 p.m.
Erica Lorraine Spencer here. The following is an audio version of video evidence that is captured for purposes of mass distribution, which is why I am capturing it and sharing it on the podcast for evidentiary purposes and also to reveal the wealth of documentation that extends beyond what it is that I document on podcasts. Much of the video and images will be published onto the YouTube channel, the P.O.C, and it is also shared on the Google Drive. Again, this is for purposes of revealing what I remain subject to, which is federal group stalking and monitoring. It is a demonic system of state surveillance that the government is practicing in concert with the people of the state. And it should be known and well understood that for the government to engage in federal group stalking and monitoring, this is a crime that is committed with a criminal purpose to threaten the life of an American citizen. This is to conspire to murder and or permanently kidnap an American citizen while engaging in a perpetual sex offense in concert with the people of the state. All right, this is Ontario International Airport hovering. Hovering right over the intersection. This is not taking off in flight. This is called crossing path by a demon that's monitoring together. All right, this is the entity that's group stalking together. All right, Ontario International Airport is gang stalking as they are doing under the fake sun all day long. They're doing so in engineered light. This is amplified audible activity, light activity, not only on the plane, but also light activity while a demon on Vine Avenue crosses path. This is the role of the people of the state. This is what the entity is using helicopters as well. Everybody at 7-Eleven is group stalking right now at 636 North Vine Avenue. That's a demon in the parking lot stalking in the path with light. I have shown you the iteration of this POC on an ongoing basis, and that's the identification of a demon at a distance. You don't have to know them. You don't have to know their name. You're going to prosecute the entire state of California while they're practicing group stalking. And that is an airport that is hovering over a multi-family residence, which is what Woodside Senior Apartments represents. And they're also hovering over and not rising in elevation. There's no takeoff. They're purely pacing over in the specific environment. That is the Ontario International Airport. That is Alan D. WAPNER, who was not going to remain over
any airport, let alone the Ontario International Airport, which is, again, their criminal conduct is rising to the level of removing that airport altogether, which you don't need it because they're demonstrating the fact that they're committed to criminal conduct as opposed to having well, not just the liberty, but the convenience. All right. It's not a necessity. The Ontario International Airport is not a necessity, and it's clearly not needed when they're devoted to sexual violence, when they're devoted to terrorism in the United States. That was a demon flying a commercial plane stalking. All right, engaging in the criminal elements of monitoring, and they're doing so with the entire apartment complex. They all represent communication devices as well. All right, and that was group stalking P.O.C. They do the same thing under the fake sun, where you've already seen it while I'm on the same exact street. Contrary to when I'm inside of Tracy Banks' apartment, it never leaves the property. But when I'm on Vine Avenue, including at 9, 10 o'clock in the morning, including at 3 and 4 o'clock in the afternoon, the fake sun is right here over me, where demons are stalking in planes. Demons are pacing in relevant position on the street, and all these demons are living in relevant position, gang stalking together. Okay? The entity is group stalking again. The units in 33 through 64, they're going to federal prison. They're group stalking still right now. They're in relevant position. This is P.O.C. 11:10 p.m. Traffic is ongoing demonic activity creation. They're pacing, and you can't hear traffic, just like you can't hear it, and it's not interrupting my voice or anything. You also can't hear it inside of the apartment. This is also a residential street, and so the ongoing sound of revving your engine, this is amplification, but again, this is just common sense. You're driving on a residential street, and you're driving so fast, and it's so loud that you're hearing it inside of the apartment. It's amplification. Okay. Nonetheless, they're group stalking. You know that because the fake sun, the engineer light inside of Tracy Banks' apartment, while these demons are group stalking right in your face, because this is what they're doing 24/7. Group stalking, gang stalking me with the state while they're sex offenders monitoring my genitalia. Traffic is relevant positioning. Traffic is light activity. Traffic also serves as a demonic method of terrorizing you through amplified audible activity, which is impossible to hear while the demons, who are the people of the state, admit that, oh, yes, we're a bunch of demons, and yes, we're stalking you, and the state's going to be prosecuted for that. It is currently 11:11 p.m. That's Ontario International Airport. Alan D. Wapner is not going to remain as the president, a demon, a sex offender, a terrorist that's over a corrupt airport that's stalking. And this is the framework whereby an airport will no longer exist in that state that's committed to criminal conduct at this level. Okay. Ontario International Airport since 2019, documenting state surveillance. This is P.O.C. Alrighty, I did just document the entity crossing path by Ontario International Airport that's hovering. They're not rising in elevation, as though there's no taking off over here, period. They're clearly just stalking. But I capture and video literally the beauty of stalking in planes in the specific environment. They're flying directly across, pacing repeatedly by hovering and low elevation in a commercial plane. Every airline affiliated with the Ontario International Airport is a group stalker. And they are doing so, again, as I document that, the entity decides second by second to continuously engage in state surveillance while you're documenting it. And that's also the information providing the basis to disband a police department, to place in federal prison and federal facilities the people of the state, to remove demons, group stalkers off of council, remove them from being council members and from having existing fire departments and whatnot, like the city of Ontario is engaging in. Okay. It's currently 11:13 p.m. I did capture that video of state surveillance by the people who cross path at the same time that the demon is crossing path in a plane. That's called, first of all, pacing. It's also light activity and audible activity and relevant positioning simultaneously while the entities engaged in federal stalking. 24-hour surveillance online. And relevant positioning exceeds far beyond Vine Avenue. All the demons on Vine Avenue are group stalking right now, and I don't have to go get all of that. I've documented some as a sample, but the entire state's going to be prosecuted. You don't have to go, and it's impracticable. No American citizen has to go get everybody's name, and that's never going to happen. And so you're understanding blowing the whistle. The federal government is recognizing you're talking about a massive prosecution. A massive prosecution. The community is targeting, having the convenience to do so inside of their homes. You're going to be prosecuted by virtue of your address, because that's what they're all doing. And that's why the specific environment is here. And that's why the entity does and engages in the methods that they do so. And they're also showing, while you stay in the convenience of your home, your impunity is being documented. You're not separate. You want to endeavor and get group stalking together as an entity. You're acting with impunity as an entity. You're engaging in kidnapping and threatening and criminal defamation as an entity. You never cease to be a part of that. And you are going to absorb all of the criminal charges engaged in and relevant to that criminal system that you participated in. Okay, there's literally no excuse other than moving away from the state. And I don't mean after you've already been engaged in group stalking. The demons that move away, Derek Williams, who retired, they're going to find themselves surrounded by federal prosecution. You're not going anywhere. You're not escaping anything. It is currently 11:14 p.m. This is P.O.C. All right, it is still November 8, 2024. It's 11:32 p.m. What you will see documented in still images while I am parked on Vine Avenue in the specific environment. And remember, the point of documenting federal group stalking and monitoring is not only to prosecute, but it's to show the level of just psychotic malice by the government that's stalking you. And remember, the specific environment, in other words, follows me. Okay, that's how you have a fake sun that's rising and setting at the apartment complex in Los Angeles, Alvarado Gardens, where I lived and worked, somehow ever being over Woodside Senior Apartments. And not only is it over Woodside Senior Apartments, it's over Woodside Senior Apartments from the beginning until the end of the day. This is the specific environment where group stalking is underway. And what you'll see in the images that I just captured right now, you're looking at state surveillance. And this is a demon by virtue of their engagement in the elements of monitoring, by virtue of their engagement in what is facilitating conduct, stalking in the path, doing so while they're monitoring evidence. And this is while, again, this is an entity that is group stalking on an ongoing basis by sitting in the middle of the street is what you'll see. I took a picture of the method of stalking in the path with light. The demons are very menacing. You see them, remember, their headlights are not what creates dynamic shadows and multiple shadows. Demons are stalking in the path using what is light activity while they're in an engineered environment. And this demon is stalking in the path in the middle of the street on Vine Avenue. 7XQW466 is group stalking me as well. And the third party that's group stalking with this third party sits in the middle of the street behind me. And the moment that I start taking pictures of this third party, by virtue of placement in the specific environment, everybody that lives in Ontario is a group stalker. This is how far, wide, and pervasive the evidence is, because this is the system that they're engaging in. I've surrounded the system with the evidence of their pattern of conduct, and there is no exception. And they are acting in conformity to that exposed pattern of conduct, which is demonic. All right. And so this demon, with simultaneity to my taking pictures, promptly drives off. That's also the identification of a third party that's monitoring evidence. You are seeing that this pattern of stalking in the path with light using the headlights is what this demon uses. You can do the same thing if you turn your hazard lights on. You can do the same thing by just turning your light signal on. But nonetheless, they're doing the same thing with regard to Woodside Senior Apartments. For example, Tracy Banks, who's bought groceries, and she turns her hazards on, and she's parked in alignment to the apartment where the fake sun is in alignment to her apartment, that fake sun that remains all day long. An engineer light, which has nothing to do with the fake sun outside, but it is evidence of a fake sun being over the environment, while engineer light fills her apartment, where you're stalking in the path with the method of light activity using some sort of flashing of light. Demons that are part of the state that drive around in ambulances and police vehicles and fire trucks, they do so using their emergency vehicles. You're looking at the demon possessed, who are the state group stalking together. That's what this third party is doing. So just expounding upon that, the entity is doing that while you are documenting what are people that are obsessively stalking you, touching you with light, wherever it is that you're driving, wherever it is, for example, while you're walking. While I was homeless and I was walking around, I'm capturing what is an ongoing, incessant, obsessive desire, purpose, pattern of remaining present. And how can our demons maliciously stalking in the path? They're doing so while they are maintaining light activity like 9NLM891, stalking in the path by maintaining light activity parked on the curb, group stalking with 9LVB682, license 40193B3, license plate 8MAH098. They're stalking in the path with light activity on this side street behind me while I am documenting them. License plate 9CHG458 6RMT500. They are engaging in what is group stalking while they are pursuing with methods of light activity in the engineered environment, and they do so while they're also monitoring my evidence. That's an entity that is group stalking as a group, okay? Corporately. So while one demon is stalking in the path while trying to cover up their license plate, the vehicle right next to them is group stalking together. That's what I'm documenting. 76518C3. 7BQE526. They're all group stalking with that demon that's stalking in the path on the side of the road. They're doing so on behalf of the government that wants to murder and kidnap me. And so does that third party. It's a demon. All right. That's the purpose of stalking in the path with light activity. That's the purpose of stalking with amplified audible activity, like the senior citizen community. A bunch of demons living on low income housing are engaging and abusing those housing benefits while group stalking with the state. Yes, that's going to be rectified when they're prosecuted. Absolutely. Terrorism will not be sponsored by the state by paying any portion of your rent. All right. And so you can sit on the streets and find a way to pay your own rent while you're gang stalking with the government. The government's not going to incentivize that. The government's not going to support that. D56Y91, that's a paper plate. These are two males driving a vehicle group stalking at G Street and Euclid Avenue at 11:37 p.m. It is currently, again, while I'm at this intersection, the entity is maintaining these elements of monitoring, and this is a demon and a third party in real time. You'll see the seconds. I take pictures. This demon knows that. That's why you have that simultaneity of beginning to accelerate. Also, what do you capture when I'm getting that? And that simultaneity of contact, they begin driving away. The moment that I take pictures, they were sitting there the whole time behind me. The moment I start taking pictures of their stalking conduct, the demon drives off. And understand, even as they take their foot off the brake, it creates light activity, and they're still monitoring even as they are exhibiting awareness that they're being documented, which again, the state is fully aware of what it is being documented, engaging in. The government is represented by those having access to all manner of technology, including helicopters, which are a means of technology as well, to group stalk you, to keep you under surveillance. They just do so audibly and visibly, if you can see them, when you're documenting the demons who are going to federal prison. What the entity does, it's not working to stop it. It's working for more time in federal prison. That's what the entity sought to do, and because that's the pattern of conduct, that's what it's designed to do. Everybody's going to go to federal prison that's engaging in that criminal act of obstruction of justice, which is built into the state's pattern of conduct. So anyway, I just wanted to go into that. This is the city of Ontario. This is fully exposed. They're not doing anything but group stalking in Ontario. It's a population of demons, and I can say that I said exactly what I said, and that's exactly what I mean. This entire population is full of a demon-possessed entity. They are group stalking as a municipality, as a state, okay? As a city, the entire city. And there is absolutely no exception but me. And that's exactly what I have shown through the pattern of conduct, through the evidence of gang stalking in the city of Ontario. So I just want to document that. It's currently 11:39 p.m. I am on where I have been many of nights, where you'll see on YouTube as of late. I've been publishing the evidence that has been sitting on the record for years. 2019, try to reconcile that with what the demons of the LAPD under the terrorist leader Dominic Choi were engaging in a necessarily specific environment, because it's not the natural environment where the sun is rising and setting in Ontario and the demons are stalking me in commercial planes and helicopters, while I am again in 2024 subject to this criminal system in Los Angeles, California. There is no reconciling that environment as being anything other than exactly what I've exposed it to be. It is a demonic environment where demons are pursuing you, chasing you down like animals, including while you're inside of an apartment, wherever it is that you live. And the entity is a bunch of demons who are obsessively stalking every move you make and keeping you under surveillance with regard to whatever it is that you're doing on communication devices. That's how animalistic and barbaric the demons in Ontario are, while I prosecuted them the entire time while in Los Angeles, California. Mike Lorenz does not have any future with law enforcement anywhere else after he is plucked out of the position that he currently holds as the chief of police. But this is not a again, while they're still working and making money as being employed by the Ontario Police Department, while they're engaging in what are exercising fictitious authority, you don't have it, and it doesn't take the federal prosecution to convict you in federal court to recognize that. They're going to be prosecuted for everything that they continuously engaged in as a corrupt police department, at masquerading as having authority that they don't have. They're going to be prosecuted for that, even if it you're talking about precedes their formal prosecution in court. They never had authority to engage in what they're doing as a department in the city of Ontario. It takes one person to expose it. So because it takes, at least somebody has to expose it. So that under no circumstances is going to be the excuse for engaging in criminal conduct as a police department, because you had to wait, and because it takes one person and you have to wait an amount of time for that justice to surface. No, you're going to be prosecuted, and it's going to go back to what you were doing way back when. It's not going to, you're not going to, oh, well, there's no consequences for what we were doing while we never had any authority before the target individual got us into federal court. That's not how it's going, and that's not how it's going to work, and that's not how the law is going to operate either with regard to any American citizen that's been subject to surveillance, and you enforce your rights at whatever point in time you realize that you've been subject to surveillance and you have the documentation to establish that. All right, you're going to be prosecuted for everything you did while you never had any lawful authority to conduct yourself as a police department under the law. The laws that matter, the laws that exist, while they act as though they do not exist. Okay. It's currently 11:42 p.m. The people of the state are stalking me as I'm driving from place to place. This is a threat to my life in the same way that they were threatening my life while at the apartment complex of Woodside Senior Apartment, stalking me from room to room in Tracy's apartment and stalking me with every move that I make. That is what's following me around on the roads and highways right now. And that is also for the prosecution of the state. License 84485Y3 is part of that entity that's group stalking me at Grove and Holt Boulevard at 11:42 p.m. This is P.O.C. It is currently 11:47 p.m. The entity is group stalking. I'm on the 15 freeway, and the entity is gang stalking always, but the method of gang stalking is what I'm engaged in documenting on an ongoing basis. The entity is always group stalking. That's what the evidence shows. It's an ongoing body of evidence showing the method, the ongoing stalking pattern by a population who's stalking you on an ongoing basis. It's iteration after iteration of the same exact group stalking conduct. So I'm on the 15 freeway. No, I'm sorry, that was the 10. I was on the 10 East freeway, and the entity is crossing path on the freeway using aircraft. Okay, group stalking. This is what an airport is on its face, as though they have operations of an airport, taking flights, making money by flying people to destinations of their desire. The Ontario International Airport's engaged in stalking using those same planes, and that's why it's going to cease to exist altogether. The Ontario International Airport has demonstrated the fact that it's not needed in California. So that's what's exactly is going to happen. I just got off at Milliken, and so they're crossing path while I'm on the 10 freeway, getting off at Milliken in Ontario, where you already know that this is group stalking. I've already documented I'm at the Ontario Mills area. I mean, fake sun in the morning, I've been here, fake sun setting in the evening, getting on the same Omnitrans. I have fully documented the city of Ontario, this area, but this is already on the record. They're group stalking. But nonetheless, as I am looking at the entity threatening, you're threatening me while you're stalking in the sky space, and the entity is maintaining light activity on the edge of the freeway. That's the state engaged in criminal facilitation. So that's the iteration of the P.O.C. license 8DQW 803. And it is, again, that's not the third party that's creating light activity. But again, this is not the individualization of what is a corporate criminal act. The only individualization will be in federal court when your name, when your name is up next with regard to how you're going to be punished for group stalking with the state. 8 VOL 172. All right. There is no individualization of what is a corporate criminal act. It's tag team demonic activity, tag team stalking, tag team activity creation on an ongoing basis. It's like double dutch. Your turn, my turn, our turn. We all have a turn. Group stalking, wherever it is that the target individual goes. Stalking with light at McDonald's right now. I'm going to get this demon. Engineered light is what's moving across the street, not headlights. And this is a demon that's lying in wait. And this is also impunity. It's going to be relevant to the way in which they're going to be prosecuted. This third party at what is Sunny Kids Dental, license plate 64567D2. All right, that is the criminal facilitation that helps the government with the population that's gang stalking together to keep you under surveillance and to facilitate that. 9MJA105 is also group stalking while that pattern of conduct is underway as you go to a quote-unquote new destination. It's not new. You are in a bubble while a population of demons are stalking you from place to place and mirroring the same exact pattern of conduct. All right. I took a picture of what is that stalking in the path with light. This is a demon that just sits in a parking lot, keeps their headlights on, and it's actually engineer light. These are demons that engage in lying in the wait conduct, and those are sex offenders that are also monitoring your genitalia as a population. It's currently 11:51 p.m. That is state conduct, that's state action while the people of the state are group stalking on an ongoing basis from place to place. And this is also the commercial actor, the Ontario Mills Mall. That's a massive prosecution with regard to draining the pockets, right? You're talking about millions of dollars that are being made, while Ontario Mills is a group stalker. So as a matter of policy, you shall not maintain the money that you're making profiting while conspiring to murder and kidnap someone. You're not going to retain those funds, those profits at all. And that's built into your prosecution. And this is, again, prosecuting the people of the state who make money in the United States while this satanic system remains underway. That's all that the United States is doing. They're engaged in terrorism, not different from ongoing hovering surveillance by the government, analogous to a despotic regime. In America, we just like to call ourselves free. We like to appear as though we are free, we're distinct, we're different, when in actuality we are not. And the United States just engages in making money profiting off of slaughtering and terrorizing American citizens. And so it's currently 11:52 p.m. Demons are lying in wait, coming out of the parking lot of 8ZHS 689 crossing path. The Dave and Buster's, I haven't been over here in a while, but I believe, third-party group stalker Dave and Buster's is a facilitating venue crossing path while the people of the state are engaging in what is facilitating light conduct, just maintaining methods of light activity in front of me. The entity is doing so on an ongoing basis. Group stalking at the traffic light, ELP, with the object of a star and then STE. So that's ELP star STE, while impossible light activity through my rear windshield appears inside of my vehicle. This demon is gang stalking at the traffic lights. This is the state that's using a population to keep you under surveillance. This is what was concentrated at Woodside Senior Apartments. Let's get all the demons that are group stalking at the 8JMV371, 8RGK243, and Nevada plate LV4EU4. Nevada, they're group stalking at the Alberto's drive-through, at the Chevron, at the Ontario Mills. License 8YET980, license 9KKB036, license 5WXV136. All right, and all they do is the demon is group stalking at pump number 8 with license plate 8JMV371. All you're doing is staying in the path, pumping your gas, or sitting in the drive-through, crossing path conduct in the engineer light during the day under a fake sun that's remaining over you. Very easy for a population to keep you under surveillance through a demonic system of group stalking. All right, they're doing so at the traffic lights. That's called lying in wait with light activity. All right, the demons that sought to cleverly maintain these elements of monitoring while engaging in that demonic pattern of conduct and doing it right in your face, and you're mistaking traffic for demonic pacing and light activity, because their headlights is not the explanation for that impossible light activity that surrounds where you are paying attention to the environment that I've exposed, where the entity is stalking you. It is current, and because you are, because I'm driving in traffic and I'm subject to this is a threat to your life. Okay, this is an ongoing enhanced threat to your life. While I'm at a senior citizen complex and a demon is following me from room to room, like you're chasing me around when I'm walking around the apartment, you're a psychopath and you represent the state. Those psychopaths are surrounding me in traffic. Understand, this is demon possession. They have the same condition. Those psychopaths are following me around. They're chasing. You're not going anywhere else. You're maintaining elements of monitoring as a population. You're group stalking while you're en route to Redlands and I'm driving on the 10 West and we cross path with each other. You are chasing me, group stalking me while you're crossing path in the specific environment. Yes, you are. All right, the entity is doing so maliciously, and you are never supposed to be able to identify it because you don't know that person's name, because you're going at different destinations, because you are going somewhere where perhaps you're going somewhere where they've never gone, or they're going somewhere where you've never gone, vice versa, and all of these legally irrelevant aspects to what is trying to, in other words, compare traditional stalking to group stalking, and it's not. Traditional stalking relies on the identification of one person that's perpetually present. Guess what? The entity is traditionally stalking insofar as that population is following me incessantly from place to place. But the group stalkers, they're hiding in plain sight while being in front of your face and relying on that while they are indeed chasing you down as a population of demons. Stalking maliciously. License 9AOM128. Impossible light activity fills my car. That's terrorism, and that's a threat to your life while you're operating a dangerous vehicle. All of that, which the demons at Senior Citizen Complex, Woodside Senior Apartments, and those old, aged third parties are going to federal prison for it. That's all being concentrated now while I'm driving on the roads and the highways. 9J and Z265, that's a threat to your life. 7XEU 599, 7XEM 785. All right, that's a threat to your life, and these are the same demons that are obsessed with my genitalia, every move that I make, every word that I'm uttering right now, and they're exceedingly hostile to it. So you're understanding in your mind the demon that's hammering on the floor above me while I'm documenting. Those hostile demons are chasing me on a freeway right now. You're talking about what is prosecuting the state for that threat, because that's exactly what's chasing me on the freeway right now. That's group stalking. 9PHG 612. Group stalking is not relying on going to the same location where I'm going. The entity is going to the same location where I'm going, because wherever I go, the entity is there. That's understanding group stalking. All right? And the entity that sought to engage in that level of malice against you, that entity thought to murder you in plain view and call it a suicide. All right? That entity seeks to kidnap you in plain view and call it the lawful authority by the police, the sheriff, and the court, while they defame you, necessarily so, in order to masquerade as having authority by you engaging in some criminal act that they're making up, and also by defaming you. Some mental illness that doesn't exist on your part, but it does on theirs. 5JIV 760, I believe, substantially similar. That's an old Toyota Corolla crossing path. All right, that level of malice, which the ordinary person is not going to suspect, recognize, and it takes a body of evidence over a term of years for the federal government to even begin to understand what it is that's being exposed and not mistake it for mental illness, which the government wants you to be mistaken for. All right, but we're well beyond that. The pattern of conduct is solid. It is solid evidence against the state. There will be no defamation of any other American citizen, because the government through California has demonstrated that no government body shall under any circumstances keep or retain someone against their will on the basis of some sort of public safety that American citizen poses to the public, because that's the same basis where the entity is abusing their rights and group stalking you. 7ETW 466. The government will in no state will the government do that anymore, based on the exposure of the state of California. That is group stalking. All right, that same abuse of the Welfare and Institutions Code is how that same government is murdering and kidnapping people. And so this is a basis to change federal laws as they exist. All right, this is serving for the betterment of the society in America and changing the laws based on what Ontario, what the state of California, what they're doing, how they do it, how they abuse their positions in the government to do it, making it impossible for them to do it under the operation of law. If you're going to kidnap someone, you're going to be forced to openly kidnap them. You're not going to have the convenience to masquerade as some medical professional who is within the operation of their profession in order to criminally defame and it be mistaken for an appropriate diagnosis when the target individual is subject to the P.O.C. That you're not going to be capable of engaging in that anymore. It's removing the veil where the states are able to target American citizens, and that's necessary as a matter of justice. All right, license, it's currently 12 a.m. License 8WNP 552. This is P.O.C. All right, the demons are group stalking at ARCO. ARCO is a fully established group stalker in the U.S. and this ARCO is on, this is Euclid Avenue in Upland, California, off of 7th Street. I have documented, this would be 8th Street. I have documented ARCO under the fake sun, all of that, while you're going to juxtapose the fake sun rising and setting and remaining over me at Alvarado Gardens. Alrighty, that is indeed 193 Euclid Avenue, who's group stalking with the consumers. This is ARCO that's profiting while engaging in group stalking with the government. And ARCO is indeed a group stalker. Every ARCO that I go to is the specific environment. That's not a natural environment. That's the ongoing P.O.C., where an entity is group stalking as a means of state surveillance by that corrupt entity. That is the state of California. That's why every ARCO that I'm documented is group stalking me. And while they're making money, while I am both a customer spending my money, and these demons that are operating these corrupt companies in the state of California, in this country, are profiting off of the demise of American citizens while they're acting towards your murder, towards your demise, towards your being kidnapped, and they're group stalking you while doing so. It's entirely absurd, the level of criminality. And again, the demons in the United States, they like to make money while they serve Satan. Okay, there's some sort of agreement where they would profit off of serving him. And the only thing that you will be paid for, you will pay in consequences with regard to engaging in this conduct. That Satan's not going to help anybody in California, not going to help any of them, and it's certainly not going to avoid prosecution for this system of group stalking that's occurring in all the ways in which ARCO demonstrates, and the people of the state being consumers at ARCO while they're maintaining elements of monitoring. All right, license 53885, that's a handicap plate. Group stalking. So be mindful when you are reading the documentation. As I'm reminding you, as a senior citizen, this is somebody of an advanced age. Okay. Again, plenty of things just off the top of my head, like probably your blood pressure, that you should be worried about, but you're not. You're group stalking me, and you are entirely psychotic while you are engaging in conduct sounding as though you're tossing your at least 55-year-old body around in the apartment. At the same time, I make any move, as I watch anything that the demons are triggered by, such as prosecuting police who are engaging in criminal conduct that triggers the demons, and so the amplified audible activity begins. That sort of behavioral pattern is what is occurring at a senior citizen complex. You need to understand that psychotic stalking, that ongoing focus on everything I do and say as I do it and say it, is occurring while I'm in a car driving from place to place. Those demons are indeed stalking. As I document the license plate crossing path, that's not random traffic. Those are demons that are chasing. They're chasing me everywhere that I go, and that's revealed through the specific environment that's speaking to a deliberate engagement and elements to keep someone under surveillance in a demonic method. 9DYR189 23A6CT. That's an Arizona plate. All right, these demons, just like the 55 plus demon in apartment 55, the demon Tracy Banks, gang stalking her own daughter. Okay, this is the entity that's group stalking with that same state. Okay, relies on demons like Tracy Banks to be the. It doesn't even make sense what the entity does. It requires public corruption. 8SOL643. You have somebody that is as ill-equipped as Tracy Banks. You're talking about somebody that's just ready to just on cue start crying and make a whole bunch of unsubstantiated statements, which are never going to be looked into, never going to be investigated. It's going to be believed on its face. This is how an entity is murdering American citizens through the family, through those that are in the lives of American citizens, because you're never piercing beyond the veil of what demons like Tracy Banks engage in, trying to sacrifice her own daughter when her mental illness is on full display while she is engaging in group stalking in California, and thought that she was going to sacrifice her daughter in doing so. There is the mental issues inherent to that are plethoric. Now, when you have a population that's group stalking, you're talking about mental illness like at a level that has not been addressed before. And remember, I'm referencing mental illness with regard to the ordinary person's ability to recognize what is a health concern, okay, your mindset. But this is, and that's just referring to it in secular terms. And I do that for purposes of understanding what it is that I'm referencing as I'm expounding upon what is spiritual, okay? These are demons. Now, when you are ignorant of the spiritual condition and the fact, the core, the root issue, you're going to be looking at somebody's behavioral pattern that's psychotic. That's why I refer to it in terms of mental illness that everybody can understand. But that's psychotic, that psychopathic conduct, that maniacal level of obsession to stalk someone and to do so as a population, and you are convinced that no one is ever going to suspect it. 9GEB141. That's why the government is group stalking in the ways in which I've shown you. And you are looking at an unmistakable, consistent pattern, forming a body of evidence that it is impossible that any person could manufacture on their own. It's not possible for me to have been able to do that. And while people are necessarily acting of their own volition in order for me to document it, it's impossible. So this is speaking to, again, the level of malice, the implications, what is necessary as a federal response, what has to change in American society based on what is going on amongst the government in this country. It's alarming, okay? And this is referring to what is ordinarily addressed as a mental health issue. Okay, well, based on the secular reference to so-called mental health, you have a state full of mentally ill individuals who are collectively practicing a targeting system. You would refer to it as mental illness to engage in it, as an individual to engage in it. You have a public safety concern when this mental illness is shared by an entire population, because that's what group stalking is. That's the demented mind state that requires a participant in group stalking. And you have an entire population. You're talking about a city that I haven't been to, or at least in years. I was practicing law, and I did practice law in Kern County. But in 2024, when I went to Bakersfield in Kern County, and you're talking about the inability for me to manufacture a fake son over me, and you're mindful of the fact that it's remaining over Woodside Senior Apartments, that's impossible to coexist, both of those at the same time. All right, my ability to capture that is nothing other than being able to point out to you what, yes, is invisible on its face. You can't see the demons on the entity. Oh, and I'm referencing the entity, which is the legal reference, the entity representing the state. The entity, the state, has literally a demonic entity on them. These are demons that make up individuals that work for the government who are group stalking. 8LJT349. It's 12:23 a.m. Excuse me. So the entity is engaging in this pattern of conduct, and it is a public safety concern because what would be ordinarily addressed as a mental health issue by an individual is a mental health issue that's shared by a population. That mental health issue is shared by those that are maliciously engaging in that criminal system while employed as police officers, while employed as sheriff's deputies, while employed as firefighters, while employed as EMTs and physicians working in hospitals. They're engaging in this pattern of conduct. And it is shown through the unnatural environment while I'm in the presence of any of the aforesaid state actors and third parties. They're demons. And the fake son over me while I'm in their presence is how you can identify them as well. You are also recognizing them by virtue of their engagement in the behavioral pattern. You're not just in Satan's environment around me innocently. You're stalking in the path, creating facilitating activity, which is beyond any coincidence as well. They're demons. They call themselves doctors and lawyers and judges. They call themselves moms and dads and grandfathers, aunties and uncles, brothers and sisters, best friends, boyfriends, husbands and wives. They call themselves the population themselves that are selling you products, representing companies, and they're group stalkers. Satan is engaging in a massive system in California. And the implications regarding what shall be the federal response, making California an example, a nationwide, if not an international example about what America's stance on terrorism is. 8XFS284. That is necessary, absolutely necessary. And if you're talking about removing altogether police departments, that's exactly what's going to happen. And by the way, while they continuously group stalk me, remember, they're also monitoring the evidence. They're keeping the evidence under surveillance. They are begging the federal government to remove them off the map. That's what they're doing. They're asking, please disband us as a police department. Please remove us as an airport altogether from the state. Please put me and all of these people at this community in federal prison. Please do that. That's what they are. That's tantamount to continuously engaging in the pattern of conduct. And the federal government is obliged to grant that wish. All right, this is speaking to the response. Now, there's a responsibility that the federal government has aware of this system that's no longer secretly underway. The American citizens in this country, the way in which businesses operate, these large industries that make a lot of money and exercise undue and unjust and dangerous influence in this country, everybody has a responsibility now. Why? It's not that responsibility didn't exist before. It's that now Satan is out and exposed. And what Satan's been doing for the entire time, making money covertly, wanting to appear as a hero under the fake sun and daylight on social media, and being an outright rapist, a terrorist, a violent criminal in the dark, going by company names and government actors that you esteem highly in your mind, and literally on social media. You follow them, you mimic them, you quote them, you want to be like them. They're demons, and they suffer from mental illness. They're psychopaths. They can't even face the reality of what they are, and in secret, when they're alone with themselves, they can't even be alone with their own thoughts. 5PFZ 570. That's the making of a psychopath. Satan is helping them on an ongoing basis remove themselves farther and farther away from realizing the sickness that they practice against people who do not deserve it, for reasons that cannot substantiate it or support it or make it legitimate. Even if you tell yourself you have a reason, you're making it up and it does not exist. Conspiring to murder and kidnap someone within concert with a whole population, while you are literally making yourselves sex offenders, obsessed stalkers, wannabe murderers. Murderers in the making. They cannot be alone with their own thoughts. This is how you create psychopaths in society. This is what Satan is doing amongst the population. They're being farther and farther removed from their conscious. This is how you are waking up and putting on your badge and your uniform, and you're going to work. All right, being a police officer during the day and also during that same day, and in the dark, you are a mentally deranged psychopath, a demon that paces around in circles, and you don't want anybody to be able to recognize actually what's going on with you in your sick mind, and also in the natural while you're monitoring somebody else that wants to be identified as an authority under the Constitution, being a police officer. It could not be farther from the truth. That's the making of psychopaths who are bearing weapons. This is terrorism in the United States. It is not a scary story. It's not a scary movie. It's not a horror flick. It's real life in California. And the laws have to change as a response. Not only are they going to be punished, but the laws have to change in order that it cannot go on in the ways in which it has been capable of existing. To permanently alter the ability for this system to seamlessly continue without a blip in the system, a well-oiled machine that just requires corruption at every level, because it's not intelligent. It just requires ongoing corruption. Everybody is a part of the same system. Nobody is standing up for righteousness. Nobody is speaking the truth. Nobody is going to stand out amongst the crowd and do what is right. No, nobody. Every single last one of them. Every single last one of them are a part of the same system. That's a tragedy. And American citizens are losing their lives and their liberty because of it. The laws must change. They have to change. They cannot stay the same, because you can't even trust the people in the positions that they hold to do the right thing. All right, it's currently 12:30 a.m. and I am on the, I filled up my gas tank at Arco that was group stalking me. And while I'm subject to an ongoing perpetual threat to my life, and the demons are obsessively consumed with the truth that I speak about them, while at the same time those psychopaths are also hostile to it. This is the inner conflict that the demon possessed suffer from. It creates violence. It creates sexual violence. It creates ongoing psychotic behavior, just like the demon in apartment 55 at Woodside Senior Apartments exhibited. Okay, that demon was so hostile, so erratic, she started engaging in conduct sounding like she was hammering on the floor. That's how hostile, that's how psychotic, that's how furious. All right, that's how seething the demons are. But they can't stop listening. They can't stop following. They can't stop stalking. That's a threat. That's not a compliment. That's a threat. and you're going to put the government in its place. You, even though you cannot stop yourself, the federal government is going to stop you from obsessively stalking another person, since you have to be made to do the right thing, the lawful thing, the appropriate thing. You have to be forced to do it. So be it. So be it. All right, I am on the 10 East Freeway in the city of Ontario. So the entity is gangsta. I'm passing Haven Avenue just as a matter of where I'm located, and the entity is a group stalking, license plate 6LTB800, crossing path on the freeway. This is the same entity, the same demon that's provoked to beating walls and ceilings as she listens to every move I make, everything I'm doing, everything that I'm watching on the internet, everything that I'm documenting on my phone. That's what's driving by me on the freeway, group stalking together. Okay, and that's just one of them. They surround on an ongoing basis, which you're going to be prosecuted for. Okay, you're going to be prosecuted as an entity. And not only that, you're talking about what is a civil recovery for the psychological harms, tangible and intangible, that an American citizen has a right to not be subject to, because you're not even supposed to live through it. Yes, damages are supposed to devastate that entity. Damages are supposed to devastate that company. Federal prison is supposed to devastate that government that necessarily must be rebuilt from the bottom up, removing every single last one of those demons, babysitting places where people that are upright and actually have integrity and will uphold the law in the ways that they're supposed to can maintain those positions of government in that corrupt state. That's what this is, removing every trace of Satan where it's legally relevant, okay? Meaning it's vital to the existence of that state. Those demons, they're waiting to be removed. They're going to be plucked out of those positions. All right, it's currently, again, 12:33 a.m. This is P.O.C.